Hi, and welcome to another episode of hippoBrain. Here is where we have hippo-sized conversations with people with hippo-sized brains. Rajesh and me take great pride in trying to figure out new and interesting hippo brains that give us insights into things that we would have no clue about. You would have also figured out that where all we try and search and we find out hidden talents, hidden brains, and hidden businesses to which I would pay to get an insight. And today I'm here with such a beautiful hidden hippo brain with a hidden hippo sized business. Rajesh, without allowing me to give more away, I let you introduce our guest for today.
Thank you very much, Jaimit. Welcome to yet another hippo brain. Our guest today is Sudhir Gupta. Sudhir is founder and CEO of TLC, India's largest, in fact, among the larger ones in the world, in the space of loyalty management solutions for the hospitality industry. And Sudhir has been running the company for the last 17 years. I think there's a lot to learn about his entrepreneurial style, also, as well as digging deeper into loyalty solutions and, of course, hospitality. Many of us have experienced great hospitality at, of course, hotel chains across the world, and we'll dig deeper into that. Welcome to hippoBrain, Sudhir.
Rajesh and Jaimit, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here and happy to chat with you folks.
Sudhir, after Oberoi, doing that McKinsey kind of working with them stint, etc., and you wanted to start something of your own, give us a little bit of genesis of how you thought through, how do you stumble upon, and why would you choose to do what you want to do? I understand you want to do something of your own, but also I have many times thought about it, and I'm sure so many entrepreneurs think, "Kya abhi karun kya?" And how did you choose that?
So, Jaimit, actually, I wish I could tell you that everything went to plan. But, the first thing when you become an entrepreneur, you realize that nothing goes to plan. And, of course, in times to come, you also realize that planning is a bad idea because you'll have more disappointments than good. The bad news kind of, always overtakes the good news, right? And it's always greater in point in the back. So, I don't think to be honest, I don't think we had any great plan. At a young age, there was no ecosystem for entrepreneurship as it exists today. Right? Way back in 98 when I left the Oberoi, there was no ecosystem, right? Of funding, startups. People would, you'll meet an aunt who'll ask you, "Beta, why did you leave a nice job to start your own?" You'll kind of go through all that heartache. And I don't think it was appreciated either. But you know what? I think inside every executive, there is always that need and that desire to try and do something of their own. But more often than not, it kind of never translates to real action because of either the limitations that you have or the commitments that you have or the risks that you believe you're taking, you don't wish to take, and or just going out and doing everything on your own. So I think there are a couple of things. Number one is because I worked at the corporate office, towards the last few years of the Oberoi corporate office, towards the last few years of my tenure with the Oberoi, I got accustomed to not being in the hotel environment. If I was in the hotel environment, I probably never left the Oberoi because the environment overwhelms. You know what I mean? Because you're a senior executive in the hotel. I was staying, for example, at a young age, I was staying at the Oberoi Grand in the hotel. I had a very nice office. I had, you visitors. It just overwhelms you, right? You're taking flights up and down all over the place. But you think you arrived in life at 25, it overwhelms you. That environment is just kind of, it becomes, in some respects, it becomes a baggage for you to take more decisions to move on. And there are very, very few people who leave hotel companies to become entrepreneurs. If you look at historical data, so because of the corporate office, you used to working in a corporate environment where you were dealing with a hotel in Bombay, hotel in Chennai, hotel here, hotel in Indonesia. You got used to dealing with things in a remote kind of basis. You got used to a corporate setup, and I think that supported the idea. Also, I think you met more interesting people. You meet more interesting people who have more interesting and strategic conversations in corporate environments than at a tactical hotel level. And so I think with McKinsey and everybody else, we thought we'd kind of start our own business. There were a couple of us who got off together. We thought we'd become a consultancy. I can tell you, nobody wants to pay you any. In India, most people are happy to have a drink with you and take advice, and not pay for consulting fee. We had many drinks. We gave much advice, but we never made any money. So we quickly also realized, I think, as a consultant, and nothing against consultants, but that if you wanted to play golf and make money, it wouldn't happen with selling your time. Right? So what happens is that if you do consulting, where you say, okay, fine, my time is important. I'm good at ABC, and I'll sell my time and I'll charge you X amount of money per hour, per day, whatever. But that's not scalable. So you can't become like Rajesh and scale up a business because to set up a scalable business, you've got to set up a business. And consulting is not really a business. It is actually selling your time. So you have more independence than working for somebody. And you probably, but you're selling your time, or you have a bunch of folks you're selling time for, and you sort of scale it up. But so we actually started off with the consulting. We did some interesting consulting projects. We worked with some airlines, we worked with some hotel companies, worked with business plans, worked with Tatas for something. There are all kinds of interesting projects. But we weren't becoming rich, and we were either struggling to get a project, or we were struggling to complete a project. Because every time you would want to hire talent, you had no forecast of a 2, 3, 4, 5 year plan. But you don't know what your consulting books are going to look like, because those assignments were small, and So we kind of started doing what I call dining programs, and that was because a friend of mine used to run an Aussie guy used to run that for Opera Hotels, and he came and met up with us in Delhi, and he said, "Why don't you run this? Why don't we do a JV with you?" And we kind of set up, and there was a lot of opportunity in India. So we agreed to the JV. We almost signed the agreement, and unfortunately, or fortunately in hindsight, unfortunately at that particular point in time, he sold the company. In the time when we were transitioning, we were setting up the JV. And he sold the company, and he called me. He's based in Sydney, and said, "You know what, I'm selling the company, but the new owners are interesting folks, and you might want to do business with them." And I met with them. And I said, "I don't want to do business with these guys." So what we did was, because that idea was cast, a plan was made, we said we'll execute it ourselves without a JV. And so we went ahead and did it without a JV. We, of course, needed to kind of work a little harder. We wouldn't get the homegrown technology we would have got, so we had to build it from scratch. We didn't get all the processes, that we had to start from scratch a little bit. But in hindsight, that worked well. At least we run the business and we kind of sort of own it. And that's how the programs, we started running dining programs. In business, it's opportunity-led. Opportunities come your way. You grab them if you think they make sense. And we saw the opportunity in this space, and we stayed on it.
So, Sudhir, just for a lay listener like me, dine-in programs. Can you elaborate? Can you explain? Can you give us the economics?
Yeah, sure. Okay, sorry. So I should have done that. So loyalty programs started with the airline business, right? So so the airlines are the first ones who set up loyalty programs. Pan American Airlines started giving miles way back in the 70s. They gave so many miles away that the airline went bust. Okay, so loyalty programs are serious business. Okay, there are billions and billions of dollars involved in loyalty points and all that stuff. So it's serious business. Airlines, move to hotels. Hotel companies set up programs and I think the logic clearly is that if I'm traveling on behalf of TLC, which happens to be our company, the company would pay my airline ticket and would pay for my hotel room for a stay at the Oberoi, and I would get some points or miles which I could use for the personal benefit. Right? So, and that's the simple concept of why these programs work. To put it more simply, they also work well when the opportunity cost of a large benefit is very little. To explain that as an example, the cost of an airline seat which is going empty is very little if you're paying the taxes. But the benefit is perceived for a ticket to London is very, very high. So you can actually give large benefits to people to fly with you, as long as you heavily manage your points into valleys and into empty seats, or into empty hotel rooms on the other side. Empty hotel rooms, because so what happens is that so you have 2, 3 kind of parameters that you need. Hotels and airlines fit into all of them. So they create successful loyalty programs, and then they kind of got together, became more complex. I'll leave that aside for this. So so what happens is, but there are different audiences who need different things, right? So there's an audience like yourselves who may travel. And you might travel, and if you travel within India, you might say, I want to stay at the Taj Hotel, or I might like to stay at the Oberoi Hotel, or listen, I split between IDC and the Taj, So you pick up a program if you stay often enough, and you say, okay, I'll get some points, I get an upgrade. If I stay often enough, they treat me well, they recognize me for the business that I give them, they give me club lounge and so on and so forth. And so you become part of a program, and from a hotel's point of view, they start tracking your spends, they can communicate with you, they can engage with you, and they can try and make you loyal. And eventually, while the loyalty may start with the loyalty to points, the hotels tend to become a habit. right? So you say, yeah, now I'm, you started in the beginning for points, but eventually a Marriott or a Taj or an Opera became a habit, and you started staying there. And that's how you build the loyalty to the brand and so on and so forth. It's like it takes time to mature, but and that's how the customer journey sort of begins. And then they become a habit, and the loyalty program takes a back seat. They want to stay in the hotel. The loyalty program is by the way, and you stay so often that you get the higher tiers. So you get locked in because you get upgrades every time you go. You get access to pools. You get early check-in, late check-out. If you traveling overseas, it's a huge advantage. If your flight lands at 8 o'clock in the morning in London, you don't want to wait till 3 o'clock in the afternoon for a room. So those kind of things kind of help you. So you say, oh, well, I'm a Marriott Bonvoy member. Let me just go stay at a Marriott hotel and give me an early check. So that kind of stuff, also helps you. And so that's how loyalty programs work. That's one kind of loyalty programs. You also have folks who are in the city of Bombay or in the city of Delhi, where I'm based, Bombay, where you're based. You're based in Bombay, right? Yeah. You go to the hotel for a meal. You go to the hotel for a spa. You go to the hotel for a haircut. You go to the hotel for a banquet. And now people also, they don't great clubs. People go weekends, sometimes stay in hotels. And what happens is that's not really a travel program. That's you're looking for benefits on dining. You're looking for benefits on a little celebration that you want to have, a little spa treatment that you want to take, or a vacation you want to take. And those are not covered by those global loyalty programs. So they're what people, as I said, dining programs, that's the old word, but those are the local market programs that exist. Almost every company has them. So you could pick up a membership for, say, $200 or an equivalent of that, 50,000 rupees, give or take, depending on what level you buy, which brand, and so on. And you could get some benefits on discounts on dining, some preferred services, some preferred rooms, etc. And what happens is that's how hotels capture the local market. Cut to today in pandemic, these local customers like yourselves you're not traveling into London. You're traveling into the hotel next door for a meal. And so local programs, local market programs can tend to add value over there. And so we actually specialize in local market programs. They've evolved over the years. And of course, we do some points-based as well. But broadly, we do local market programs for hotels. We actually work with every hotel company in the country except for Oberoi Hotels.
Wow. So that's very, very interesting. And I forgive me if I ask a further little more technical question. These local market programs, you seem to have built a sense of expertise around it and some amount of IP that helps you manage it. May I ask, and forgive my ignorance, why is it so difficult? And why would I need, as a hotel, to outsource it as opposed to running it myself? So why would I want to go with TLC, and what is the kind of intelligence that you would have built over the years?
So, I think, so why can a hotel company not run it themselves? The simple answer is they can. So if you were to turn around and say, why would a Taj or an IDC or a Marriott hire folks like us and not do it themselves? I think it's a business decision of saying what's core to my business and what is it that I can outsource. I don't think that there's any IP that a brand that a Tata Group company cannot recreate, or a Marriott or a global Fortune 500 company cannot recreate. There's nothing. Of course, there is some expertise that you build, some technology that you build, some human talent and sector that you build. You have some, you have local market knowledge that you get deep in because of experiences and because of process. But all of that is, I don't believe for a moment that we are in a space where a hotel company cannot go and run it. A small hotel, independent hotel, maybe not. But a large brands, for sure, they can. But I don't think that's their business. I don't think that's their business. I think their business is to run hotels. Their business is not to do a good job of that. Their business is not to run contact centers, tech companies, IT-enabled businesses. So it's like asking a question: why would can a Taj Hotels not? Why would they not hire an advertising agency? Can't they do advertising themselves? The answer is, of course, they can if they wanted to, but that's not their core business. And I think that's the simple answer. So I don't think there's any. Of course, we all very happily say that we got great IP and all that. And of course, we do, but it's not something that cannot be replicated by a large hotel company. I think they all have the depths of knowledge and intelligence to recreate what we have got. It's just that they don't want to do it. It's not their business, not worth their time.
So Sudhir, one question: as you're building this out, in the hospitality industry, you've sort of stuck primarily to hospitality. was there a temptation to expand to other verticals? Because loyalty is there, and now, of course, many companies, many industries are doing loyalty, recognizing the value of loyalty. It started, of course, with airlines and hotels, like you said. Now it's expanding. People are seeing how loyalty programs, or loyal customers can really deliver much greater revenues and profits. And yet you've sort of stuck steadfast to the hospitality industry. Why?
Lack of ambition. As simple as that. So it's clear lack of ambition of doing anything. You enjoyed working with hotels. You understood the domain. You were in your comfort zone. I think we were just not ambitious enough. And that's the honest truth. And yeah, of course, loyalty, to take a minute on that, that spreads across retail, telecom, grocery stores, Amazon, everybody has it. We started prepaid programs 20 years ago. The new buzzword is prepaid programs 20 years later today. But I just read an article from McKinsey last week, I think, on how prepaid loyalty programs and subscription programs are going to change. They've done a research on how those customers use you far more than the free program guys. And so there's a shift happening within loyalty as well towards prepaid programs. So in that respect, I think we are happily placed because we run prepaid programs. But the reality is that it's just that we didn't bother. If we had bothered, we probably would have been running some programs for retail, or we just didn't bother. And it's not that we didn't get the calls in the beginning, because we were out there 20 years ago, and we one of the few companies out there trying to run their own business on loyalty programs. So we didn't get the calls. Maybe enough guys who would say, "Oh, who runs the Taj program? Can I call those guys to run my program for me?" You know what I mean? Or who runs the IBC program? So that kind of stuff would always happen. And so we've never had a sales team, for example. So we've never really gone up. So we never had anybody who goes and sources business. We've just, in the hotel industry, you don't need to. Everybody sort of, it's a small industry. We all know each other. And so somebody wants to look for a program, they'll probably figure us out. And if they can't figure us out, they just need to go and tap a couple of words on Google to figure us, find us. And outside the hotels, we don't even look. So we don't even have we've never had a sales guy making a pitch for a non-hotel kind of customer. I'm almost certain that if we were to have taken that view 20 years ago or 10, 15 years ago, we would definitely have had a couple of non-hotel customers. We've, of course, expanded within hotels to do other things. Like, for example, we work with a timeshare, very large timeshare company, global timeshare company represented in India. We do some high-end club memberships and all that. But we broadly stayed in the membership programs. And it's a combination of sales, back-end, front-end, technology, marketing, design. It's a whole bunch of stuff that we do. So we are end to end, right? So we give you a tech solution, we give you a design. There's no tech without design. Rajesh, you know that better than anybody else. So we have a design team. We have we work with platforms. We have great platforms that we work with on technology. We have contact center ability, world-class contact centers. We have ability to do back-end fulfillment. We do partnerships. So we do all kinds of stuff, right? Which is required. So we're not like I shouldn't kind of take any industry as such, but we're not like a single sort of guy who comes in the middle and doesn't give you a 100% solution. So if you go, we kind of say we do end to end everything you want, and we run it for you. So I think that also helps to kind of So in hindsight, Rajesh, unfortunately, I'm not as rich as you because I wasn't smart enough. Otherwise,
I think all of us pick our niches to work in. It's a question I think we all face as entrepreneurs. I mean, even in Netcore, when I look at our own business, many people ask us, why haven't you done this? Why haven't you done that? And you're absolutely right. I think in the mindset that there is an area we are comfortable in. We focus on that. Look at maybe a little bit of adjacencies, but there's so much more to be done in these areas. You become better and better as we go along.
So I like what I read, and I don't know whether it's quoted correctly from Mr. Mukesh Ambani, but somebody said, India life is so tough, and I can't go to sleep, and so I believe he responded and said, I can't go to sleep, and I tell you why. Because there's so many opportunities in India. I don't know which one to pick and which one to leave. So I don't know whether it's actually quoted from him or not, but whoever quoted that has actually said it very well. So as an entrepreneur, you have so many opportunities knocking on your door, and you have to take a conscious decision of saying how much do you want to stretch with the bandwidth of management that you have. And coming from the overall, I had this focus on quality. So I did want to make sure that whatever we didn't compromise the current customers that we had. And that's the reason we probably work 20, 18, 19, almost 20 years with Marriott, almost 20 years with Taj, we work 20 years with Leela. People get bored of you, right? So you got to kind of, come with something new every couple of years. You got to do something different, and we continue to hang in there because we genuinely make sure that our current customers are looked after. So we probably don't add a customer a year.
So the one thing, the hospitality industry is probably one of the toughest industries because from a customer who walks in is perhaps one of the most demanding. I mean, even if there is something wrong here, there, you tend to notice it much more than you would in probably other industries. So what are some unique aspects about the hospitality industry, which you have seen over the last, you've been there now 30 plus years? What makes this industry stand?
I'll take a contrarian view to that. Okay. I'll take a contrarian view to that. And my view on that is that I don't think the customers in hotels are demanding. Okay. I think we have to understand a little bit about, so what happens when an Indian customer goes and lands up in a hotel in somewhere in Europe. You and I land up. We are seen as a difficult kind of customers to deal with. These guys are Indian, difficult customers to deal with. And an American lands up in a European hotel, they say, well, he's probably not that demanding. But let's understand, if you dig a little deeper, the problem is that Indian society is based on when you were born young, we had maids at home. We have a servant at home. We are a society which is not into self-help if you're middle class and above. So what happens is we are so used to somebody making a tea for us, cup of tea for us, and getting it to us as a private butler in 2 to 3 minutes and 4 minutes. And at the end of 5 minutes, we start getting edgy as to why is my tea not arrived, right? Because that's the way we've grown up. And an American who's baking his own tea is more than grateful that somebody else is making it for him in the first place, right? In a hotel. So he doesn't care about the 5 minutes, right? He's just happy that somebody else is making it for him and doesn't want to make it for himself. And so I think what happens is when as hoteliers, when we deal with different kinds of people, and if we understand a little bit about their backgrounds and how their upbringing is, I think you can handle them a little better. For example, going back to my own company, Opera Hotels, we set up what is called butler service. They were pioneers in setting up what is called butler service. They say, butler service is nothing like a personal butler. Of course, not many companies have it. You kind of press a button and somebody will say, my name is Sudhir, and some your personal button and help you whatever you want. That was based on the fact that that's what the Indian was used to. You wouldn't do it in an American hotel company, right? Because, the Americans are used to that personal butler. So I think if you understand that and you tackle that, it's very easy to sort of deal with customers, or customers from hotels can deal with customers. I think on the flip side, customers are wonderful in hotels. They enjoy coming to hotels, so they're in a good frame of mind. They like to crack jokes. Because they come, they treat you as equals. They make wonderful conversations. Some of the best conversations I've had with our guests across the place. You develop as a young age social skills to deal with senior people if you're in a hotel. And I think it's that ability to handle that. If you get arrogant because you're sitting in a hotel lobby and you think you get a little arrogant, then that's I think more at an executive level, that I can't handle this customer. But I think if you treat them as humans, equals, and you deal with them, I think it's a very, very easy industry because you're dealing with reasonable people. You're extremely reasonable people. So I think so I have a contrary view on this. I think the customers in hotels are actually very good people, and I think they get upset because as hoteliers we manage to upset them. And if you're going to charge somebody $300 a night or $400 a night, you better make sure that you can deliver that kind of value. And I think that, and rightfully so, right? If I'm paying $400 a night to stay in a hotel and I can't get my cup of tea for 45 minutes, then I have a right to be upset. Or I should go and stay in a hotel which costs me $50 a night. Then I wouldn't expect that cup of tea and make it myself. So I think that's my view on customers in hotels. I think my experience with customers has been, and both at the Oberoi and outside, has been that they're absolutely wonderful experience to shake hands with customers. They come in a happy frame of mind in a hotel lobby. They're well read. You meet some different kinds of people from different parts of the world, different industries. It's some of the finest conversation experiences that you can have. If you were to do the same thing in a hotel lobby, you'll make a wonderful 1 hour session because you'll come across such interesting people.
We should do the hippoBrain at the lobby, no?
Hotel lobby, yeah. I'm telling you, you come across some really interesting people. I know people sitting in the evening, come after a hard day's work, catching a drink alone in the bar. You kind of find all kinds of interesting folks.
I would agree to you, and spoken like a true hotelier and a loyalty program. Oh, man.
I'm not talking about loyalty program. I'm talking about hotelier. I think we are best, in many ways. It's an interesting trade. Tourism and travel is obviously very large now, and people have traveled, for thousands of years. They used to be dharamshalas, and so travel's obviously there. It's obviously more organized now. Tourism continues to grow. People will travel. They learn, they experience. They travel business and work. And I think folks who work in hotels get to meet very, very interesting people. And I think that's one of the biggest perks of the job.
I would agree with you. And as the host of hippoBrain, I can tell you, after meeting a lot of the hippoBrains, I think my brains are slowly getting bigger and bigger.
So I don't know about the hippoBrain bit. This is the fun bit. In hotels you make fun conversations, but what happens is when you meet different kinds of people, and that's to the show that you do with hippoBrain. To your point, I think what happens is, I think a lot of it is not about writing a very complicated book or something. I think it's about the experiences that people learn, that they share. And I think hotels become a really a wonderful place to meet interesting people. And and when they're sitting in a holiday, sitting at in a hotel, nothing to do in the evening, and you have a drink with somebody, you could meet really interesting people. So I'll tell you, when I was a sales and marketing guy at the Calcutta, 25 years old, and I wanted to meet some of my customers, I would just walk into the bar, and I used to stay in the hotel, and I would find like 8 or 10 tables. I'll say, why don't we I'll go and take corner table and say, why don't you give everybody the next drink on me? Okay, and suddenly you got to know 10 because what happens is that everybody come and thank you, right? And so, so you say, well, the drinks and the guy sitting on the corner, and he's a sales and marketing guy at the hotel. Oh, really? Okay, so somebody come and thank you, and somebody come and sit on your table, and that's how you get to know people, right? And the free drink was worth it, right? Because you met so many people, and somebody had a good experience, somebody had a bad experience, and that's how so there's so many ways you can get to sort of interact with folks. The very concept of happy hours in hotels, to your point of hotels, is actually a concept that was created based on the fact that business travelers traveling alone, and they don't know what to do in the evenings. So they can get a free drink at the bar, and just like I'm working and traveling on work, and so is Rajesh and Jaimit, you'd be happy to hit the bar alone, sit on the stool, and get chatting. And the community that you meet, the people that you meet, and conversations that you can make with each other are absolutely wonderful. I have a friend of the same guy who who I was going to set up a business with, and when we signed TLC, and he sold the business off. His wife he met during happy hours in a hotel. So he was having a drink alone in Singapore somewhere, and this lady came and sat next to him. She's from the US, and they got chatting, and they became friends, and they got married. So so that's how you kind of get people together.
This is very interesting, and what I find very interesting is, of course, what you're saying is it is a happy place, and you have happy experiences, but you've been running this business for 20 odd years, and you've had Taj for 20 years and Leela's for 20 years and Marriott for 20 years and God knows what not. Two questions, they're actually one question, but two sides to it, is that how has this business evolved over 20 years? And how do you keep pushing year on year to continue to stay relevant? So in whichever order that you want you to answer.
So I got no order. I've only got one answer. And that is that, if you have a view that every day I'm going to try and do something new. To add, so people say, when did you get that eureka idea? There's no eureka idea, in my view. I haven't had one. Maybe some people get one. It's basically you just say every time I'm going to do something, I'm going to see, can I do it 1% better? Can I write this letter a little bit better? Can I write this? Can I do this little box a little bit better? Can I do this card a little better? Can I do the color better? Can I do the font better? Can I do the call better? Can I do the script better? Whatever it is. If you keep saying that every day I'm going to try and improve, and 20 years later, you'll be a better company. Or every year, you'll be a better company. So what we did was, so I've got this very sort of finicky thing about saying that we must try and do something better every day. So if somebody gets anything on my table, you can almost be certain that it's going to get stuck. Do you have person? No, leave it with me. I'm going to work on this because I want to make it better. And it's not that it's bad, but everything can become better. And I think that thing that I want to improve every day, and I want to improve everything that I do to make it better. It doesn't matter whether it reflects on TLC or reflects on one of our customers or reflects on none of us, but just something that you do in general. But I think that passion to do something better, I think is just what keeps the business alive. You would then just change everything. You would kind of read more. You would learn more because you're trying to improve. You'll figure out what somebody else is doing. You will benchmark more. You'll pick up practices. You'll pick up, because you have that passion to become better.
I want to hold you there. I want to pick you there. Can you give us an example of something you've done or something that you're particularly proud of? This is what I did, and this is probably a good example to show that how you kept pushing the bar 1% at a time.
So I have no example because I'll give you the answer why. Because this is not a one item agenda. This is a million item agenda. From the way you sign on a letter that's going out, to the way the envelope is folded, to in the earlier years, to how you do campaigns. It is the small things that collect together to make a big difference. Like, so in hotel, take another example, another hotel company we don't work with, which is Peninsula Hotels. They say the details make a peninsula. And I like that tagline because the details of everything, improving everything little by little every time. So there's no big idea, there's no big thing that we've done, nothing. It's the small things that we do better and better and better every day. Of course, I can give you a full talk on the technology stacks that we have, and Rajesh will beat me up and tell me that we don't use that core, and and I can tell you how we use great technology, how we have some fantastic journeys, customer journeys, all automated. But that's all okay. The real thing is, are you trying to become better every day in everything that you do? So what happens is, what happens is when you become better, and what happens is it goes down the line. Somebody's going to say, well, if I'm taking you to Sudhir, I better look at it and see. And then you get into a discussion and say the guy is so finicky, and But the reality is, it becomes a cultural thing, right? And I think that drives the company to do better. And we stayed with one industry, small customers, 20 years. I think because of the simple focus of saying, can we do better? Can we do everything better? That's it. I have no example. Because there's no one thing that I can point. It's everything we do. It's a cup of tea that's presented to a customer. Can we do a better cup? Or somebody would say, the tea that the guy gave was not to the right height. And it might be a simple example, but say, we are TLC, we're a good company. Why are we presenting tea like this when somebody comes to meet us? Why can we do a better job of this? And somebody say, yeah, let's do a better. Somebody take charge of it and say, let me do a better job of it. So what happens is it just becomes a cultural thing, right? And then you just kind of get on with it. And I think if you do something better every day, I promise you'll become a much better company. Rajesh from Netcore can tell you that.
You are absolutely right, Sudhir. I think many companies search for this big flashy new thing. And I think you've put it beautifully. I think it's a great philosophy to have. And I was telling someone the other day, other day now seems a long time ago, of course, in a meeting, that if you do 1% better every day,
correct,
you are 37 times better in a year. The power of compounding, I think, is so amazing.
That's correct. And I think that's what allows you to stay in. So we are not in the Rajesh, at TLC we never set it up for evaluation. There was nothing called evaluation 20 years ago, right? We didn't even know how you spell the word, and we didn't know how many zeros come into valuations, right? We set up a business to set up a nice business as a middle class family, work hard, do a good quality job, and make a fair living, right? And that was basically the definition of business, right? And that definition continues to today. And the reality is that and that definition of trying to do a hard job, being paranoid about doing a good job, and you put 1% better every day, and the power of compounding kicks in, and you become better and better and better and better, and at the same job. And of course, if you're more strategic in terms of if I had more strategic direction, or if I had more strategic investors, or somebody could have said, ye bhi kar lo. But we were happy doing that 1% better every day. And our passion and our energy took that, was engaged in that particular focus.
Sudhir, one question for you here. I can understand this 1% better at your level. Today, you are probably about 1,000 people. How do you push this down the line? How do you make it the DNA of a company?
Yeah, बहुत मुश्किल है. It's a very good question. You know it because you run businesses, and you know it. It's very, very hard. I think what happens is that you keep trying. So what happens is this turnover. You keep trying. Mm-hmm. I think so to say that 20 years later, is everybody in my company doing 1% better every day? I would be I wouldn't know what's going on in my company if I said yes. Would our top 10% people or 5% people or 3% people try and do that? Hopefully once in a while. You know what I mean? Because, this is a passion thing, right? It's very hard to drill it down to somebody, right? But what you can do is you can create workflows and processes, right? And you understand workflows and processes better than I do because you are an expert at that. What you do is you start creating workflows and processes, and when everything starts going back, then what happens is it sort of so it may not become a passion, but the workflow is such that there is a quality check that's being taken place. There's an improvement check that's being taken place. So you create a structure that you try and also, because your passion, you also want to because you're not a business, you create structures, right? So you create a structure to say, to me it's a passion, but I can't imagine it to be a passion to everybody else, right? So what you do is you create structures around saying, how do we become better every day? You do meetings and say, how do we become, what are three new things we did, or 3 things that we did better every month. And, and you kind of do that and try and kind of get going. But it's hard to make it a DNA of the company. That'd be great if you could. But I think what happens is people see the value of it and they appreciate it because the customers appreciate it. So I think there is a sense, at least in our leadership team, to say, hey, how can we do this better? Do we have all the answers? I can tell you, and it's not only about delivering to the customers. For example, a company our size has EY stat auditors and KPMG tax consultants, Jain, there's some really fancy big names. And why? Because and if they ask you, if you go and ask any of them, you go to the KPMG guys, they were my stat auditor for 5 years. I just told them over. They'll say, so he's the most interesting entrepreneur we've met. Because every time we come and meet him, he tells us, "Arey yaar, mujhe ye batao ki main acha kya kar sakta." So what can I do differently and better, yaar? Mujhe batao. So so he says, so you call the KPMG guy and he says, so the standard question is, yaar, mujhe batao ki what can I do better, yaar? Samjhao mujhe. कि हम और क्या कर सकते हैं, नई चीज क्या better कर सकते हैं. So the thing is, it's that so every time if I meet a tech guy, I'll ask him, yeah, like today itself, we're having a meeting on optimization. How do you make something faster and better on some APIs? And my question was, yeah, 4 milliseconds, but so it seems fine. But how do we get into 2, 2 milliseconds? You know what I mean? To the response time. So the question is, why should I accept a 4 millisecond response time? Is that the benchmark? Can I make it 3? And when you ask the question, can you make it 3? You say, yes, you can. You do these 3 things. And then you start looking for solutions, right? But at some stage, you just say, yeah, this is fine, it's good benchmark. Why do we make it 2? But those 2 milliseconds and together make 3 seconds, right? Eventually. And so, like today itself, we said, yeah, this. So there are some APIs, these are all within these milliseconds, but this one is. So I said, let's go after every one of them and cut out time everywhere. And let's go after and I think what happens is, and when you ask that question, then the tech guy says, हाँ, हो सकता है. हमें, sessions को combine करना पड़ेगा. तो कल दो यार, let's do it. And so I think that's the thing. You keep asking the question. So I learned something in ISO. Something interesting. So we were doing an ISO audit. This is an ISO audit. We get the 27001 audit done. This is an information security standard audit. So we get it done the first time. I asked the auditor. So the auditor came and met me. He said he wants to meet the CEO. So he came to meet with me. मुझे ज़्यादा ऑडिट के बारे में पता नहीं था. So I asked him a standard question. He said, मुझे बता कि मैं क्या सीख सकता हूँ ISO 2701 से audit. ठीक है ना? So he said, sir, every time you ask something, ask the question why 4 times if you want to get to the root of the answer. So why did something go wrong? So he said, okay, because the guy didn't come to work. Okay, So why did the guy not come to work? Well, because the car had a flat tire. You know what he says? You know what happens is when you ask the question the fourth time, why? Only then would you get the root of the problem. He says most people drop it after the first or second whys. He says if you want to get to the root of a problem, ask the question why 4 times on top of each other. And I said, yeah, this is interesting. Try करते हैं. तो सबने कहा इसको तो हमने सारे RCS जो करते हैं root cause analysis पे 4 whys लगा दिए. 1, 2, 3, 4. कि fourth why तक आंसर चाहिए हमको. So so that those things make you better, right? Don't they, Rajesh and Jain?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great way to frame it. I think this is very, very practical advice. Jaimit?
Yeah, I think it is an interesting. So when you're trying to search for some deep, big, huge, hidden meaning, and a hippoBrain comes and says, "एक second, इतना भी complicated नहीं है."
बहुत complicated. इतनी मुश्किल नहीं है.
इतना मुश्किल नहीं है. ये सब है. लेकिन मैं तो hippoBrain को तो पूछना मेरा काम है. So I'll give you an example. Sandeep, one of the analytics and DM superstars, came on hippoBrain and he taught us very basic thing. He said LOCTR, DM में. बोले ये क्या है? List, offer, creative, time and response. बोले जो भी करना है DM में पहले तो list और offer तो पहले निकाल और उसमें पहले list तो बता. Go to the list, find out to whom you are talking and get that damn list. Then you can get the offer, then the creative, how easy to respond and what it is when you have to send it. Now, this we taught and it taught me a lot. Now, I'm going to hold you a little because I don't often get to be in front of the doyen of the loyalty industry.
ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. पर doyen
सर जो भी है मैं तो आपसे लेके रहूंगा कि if I were to go back and say कि मुझे एक loyalty program करनी है, okay, whatever, or whoever wants to run his own loyalty program, what are those 2-3 principles that you hold tight, hold true, which you've seen last the test of time? While designing loyalty programs, while running loyalty programs, while keeping loyalty programs alive for 20 years.
So I'll tell you, let me first, will you humor me for a minute? And let me tell you how I look at a direct email campaign. Okay. So पहले तो objective define करो. कि हम करना क्या चाहते हैं. ठीक है? Because your communication is based on the objective, the business objective. कोई define नहीं करता. Email बनाकर भेज दो, right? Then once you define the objective, then you write what I call a brief. Okay, you write a brief and you give it to somebody in content. Then the creative guy will get involved. They will put together a design that you say must follow style guides and brand standards. So another guy gets involved with standards and brand standards and all. This is one email. Okay. Then this is all hard work, no hippoBrain story, but you don't follow the process. It's a process story. Then you get that done. Then you say, okay, now it's done. Now I'm going to do a design. I'm going to get an HTML done. HTML has a 50-point checklist of how a good HTML is made, CSS is written, so on and so forth, right? So that it can be responsive to different screens, different sizes, different mobiles, different Then you go and get that email coded and use a tool like Netcode, and go to Rajesh and you put it into a Netcode. You may have a workflow to get that email approved. Right? So you might have an automated workflow to say, I'm going to send it to Jaimit, who's going to approve the email, etc. So another guy comes into play who says, नहीं यार ये मुझे photo ठीक नहीं लग रहा, मुझे image ठीक नहीं लग रहा, image का color ठीक नहीं है, image का size ठीक नहीं है. It's a pretty, and then you say, then you go and get that done. Then you get testing done. Then you have a full parallel run on databases, right? What data cuts you want to set it to, what analytics is coming in, etc., etc. That's the creative thing. Then you put it all together, you start testing business rules. Then you start doing targeting. Do different messaging, different everything else. Then you send it to testing. Is the email coming okay on all the devices before an email is sent out? Somebody, you go to a customer and say, yeah, email bhejna hai, bhej do. Right? Boss, an email has 9 people involved, 15 processes, and 20 checklists. If you want to get a world-class email out. But that quality will only come if you follow all these processes. Otherwise, and Rajesh is an expert in this, otherwise it's not going to be world-class. Is that right, Rajesh?
Absolutely right.
So a lot of hard work goes behind even putting out a small communication like that.
So it's like, I read the book many years ago, the Toyota way, and I think this is the TLC way. Even एक email करना है, there is a way to it. There is a process to it. And there is no shortcut.
Shortcut करते problem हो जाएगी. Shortcut करा आपने problem हो जाएगी. And हर चीज़ की checklist होती है. Release checklist, onboarding checklist, testing checklist, test cases, सबकी checklist होती है. Tick करो फिर आगे चलो. So at least, and that's, I think what happens is, to the question on quality, you start kind of institutionalizing what you learn through checklists and documents and workflows and so on and so forth. So I think, and that becomes your IP, so to say. Okay, going to your original question. Sorry, I took that minute off to explain to you what a tough job that we do, which has nothing to do with the hippoBrain, a lot of checklists and stuff like that. Okay, so if you also have a loyalty program, here's the first thing is, here's the bad news for the tech folks. I run a tech company as well. Tech should not drive your end product. Tech's an enabler, user is an enabler. Many times what happens is tech says हम ये नहीं कर सकते, हम ये कर सकते हैं, ये नहीं कर सकते. बहुत सारे रन माय ओन टेक कंपनी सब जाते हैं. हाँ, अगर आप कहो कि मुझे करना है, सब हो जाता है टेक में. अगर आप बोलोगे कि मुझे मून जाना है तो मून के लिए भी कोड लिख देंगे. Right? So tech folks are smart. तो हो जाता है. So but don't allow tech to be a limiting factor. They are an enabler. They must facilitate what you can do. Number one, never lose focus on the customer. Right? Many times, there are many stakeholders, right? So if you look at a hotel, a typical hotel, you could have a management company, you could have an owner, you could have a hotel team, you would have, you'll have many stakeholders, right? And everybody has somebody who's looking at a financial P&L, somebody's looking at something else. Let's keep an eye on the customer. And let's define what you want to achieve. And I think if you keep it really simple, keep it customer focused, make sure there's value for the customer, make sure there's value for the hotel company, make sure you're being fair and honest to all parties, and you promise less and deliver a bit more. I think you'll be fine. I think it's as simple as that. And of course, you can conceptually look and benchmark and say, do I want to give this? When is my hotel free? When do covers add maximum value? So it's not rocket science to know that hotel rooms empty are in city hotels over the weekends. Lunches are not that busy in hotels. Spas are not busy, but on Friday. But we all know that, right, in city hotels. And exactly the reverse is the opposite on the weekends and resorts. So that's pretty much given. So the construct is not that difficult, right? But the thing is, if you keep your focus right, you want to be fair to the customer, you want to give value have a reasonable value proposition, and don't overpromise but over-deliver, you're fine. Some of the younger folks kind of sometimes in the hurry to do more or deliver more, sometimes you are not a long haul player and you tend to overpromise and stuff which won't get you around for 20 years.
I think, Sudhir, it's been an amazing journey over the past hour or so. I think the way you've sort of laid out, I think multiple dimensions. One is when we look at, of course, the loyalty program and the hospitality industry. And I think for me, I think the one thing which I will take away is this whole idea of how do you become 1% better every day? I think it's a very powerful idea. See, it's something which you keep reading about, but I think what you've done is taken it one level further, saying that ask the 4 whys and take things and make them into processes. I think you explained it beautifully. You probably did not link it with the 1% idea, but the whole act of sending an email.
Yeah, something as simple as that, right? And you have hundreds of things like that, right?
Yeah, and then you have 25, 30 elements in this, and each one can be made better as you go forward.
Correct. And and you keep adding to those checklists, you keep adding to those processes, you keep automating the workflows through tools like yours. And then what happens is the workflows create the discipline. The tools also create the checks and balances. And you do a combination of tools, workflows and all to institutionalize what you want to do with checklists. And I think that's the only way you can deliver quality and superior quality time and time again.
Absolutely. And you've borne it out through the past 20 years as an entrepreneur. I think
I'm feeling tired already.
I know you, Sudhir, you're going to go back to work now and say, okay, what can I make 1% better next?
Yeah, so I've got a problem. I've got 200 emails to reply to. So I'm going to go back and say, I can't leave office without replying to the last email today. So
brilliant discipline.
And you also, I think there's one more thing.
Yes.
To that. I think if you make a commitment, you must always adhere to it, which basically means if I tell you that, Rajesh, I'm going to call you tomorrow at 4 o'clock, it just cannot happen in the last 20 years that I haven't called you. Okay. If I can't call you 4 o'clock, I will have somebody call you and say, Rajesh, I'm really, really sorry. Or somebody will call and say, Sudhir, calling on behalf of Sudhir, really, really sorry. He can't make it at 4 o'clock. but we're just freeing up your time. I think what happens is if I say I'll get back to you by tomorrow on this, and there is just no way in hell that I wouldn't get back. And if I can't for whatever reason, that person would get enough heads up notice with a fresh time and a deadline. I think your ability and your credibility as a company, as an individual, that if you make a commitment, you honor it. It's extremely critical in anything.
Beautifully put. And I think both of us have been running companies for the past 20 years. I think companies which are proficons, in some ways profitable.
Individual businesses kind of thing. Yeah. So, yeah. Nice word.
And it's, I think what you've brought attention to is, I think many times we look at the big fancy new things. It's just the simple basics done right. Commitments not left unmet. Every email answered before you go to sleep. Okay, I think it's
and like I say, strategy is done once in a year, once in 2 years. It's in business is all about implementation, right?
Absolutely.
And, you can execute well, and I think you'll be fine.
Beautifully put. That was a great conversation. Jaimit, your learnings, takeaways?
Yeah, I think it was extremely interesting. And sometimes every time, Rajesh, you are on one side and we have a hippoBrain on the other side, and I feel like one really tiny worm sitting and listening to these conversations. I think my job is just to...
On the other side here. It must be Rajesh. You got the guy wrong guy. So you've got a title called hippoBrain. I think you should call it. You should change it to call it a hard-working brain or something. The guy will just keep working hard.
I know. We should probably just call it something like that.
So the academics, I suppose, you need academics to look at the big picture. Research and all that is very vital. But I think running on the ground businesses requires. I think a lot of successful businesses, I think, are run by people who basically just execute well.
I would agree with you, Sudhir, and that's what we've learned over a period of time from a lot of our hippoBrains, when they're running SaaS business and they come and speak how very clearly and how focused they are on running their businesses. Most of our hippoBrains are super. I felt that they're very laser-like in their understanding. So they focus and they do it well. Some are able to articulate and make a grand vision out of it. Some are just coming and saying it's common sense and it's simple. It's one step after the other, one step after the other. And talking to you, it's been very interesting because I feel you mishmashed 3-4 books, management books all together and removed each and every little bit and said, yeah, ये मेरी story है. इसमें you are trying to get and search for some deep meaning. That is your problem. But this is my very little simple story. And that makes it successful. And honestly, none to argue with that. 20 years holding on to so many clients in a business and continuously moving 1% better every time. So the books that I can think of when I'm talking to you is probably the Toyota Way, where it tries to explain these processes. It's a dense book, but every time I read it, and I've gone to it 2-3 times, and I'm not in manufacturing. I've been in finance all my life. It just believes in the power of process and incremental changes, empowerment to the person on the ground to keep thinking and keep thinking and keep thinking and make those incremental changes. And an outstandingly another book, which I don't know whether you've read, but you so beautifully talked about it, about the checklist. There's a beautiful book called The Checklist Manifesto. And he just says the same thing. Okay, keep a damn checklist.
For everything.
For everything, just keep a checklist. And I think many years ago, when my first brush with HTML email and what you're saying is right, I also put a checklist. What are the 5 things that make a good email?
So actually, I have a checklist, for example, for travel.
For travel.
I should get very stressed, passport reh gaya, ye reh gaya, wo reh gaya. So I made a checklist for travel. Yes, the stress is all gone, right? You just done, 5 minutes. But you know what? Talking about strategy, and there's one more thing that comes to mind, which is, we learned very early in life that complex things are going to be thrown at you, right?
Yes.
And sometimes you struggle to figure out as to the complexity of it, right? So, and the only way to solve it is to break it into smaller and simpler parts. So I think if you keep it simple and break anything complex into simpler parts, and say, okay, there's a complex story. Now let me try and break the parts apart. And let me try and attack one part at a time because it's looking like a complex problem. You can solve it, right? But the moment you take a complex problem and try and find a complex solution to it, I think you're in deep trouble.
True. Absolutely. And I was just, while talking to you, I was just Googling and trying to understand something on, I figured out there is something called the 1% rule. The 1% rule states that over time, majority of the rewards in a given field will accumulate to people and teams and organizations that maintain a 1% advantage over the alternatives. You don't need to be twice as good to get twice as better results. You just need to be 1% better. And you're taking 1% every day over everything that you do. My God, you're going to be extremely difficult to beat.
The problem is, so that's true. We're extremely difficult to beat, but in a small niche industry, and we are happy sitting there and doing a hard day's work, and talks like these also get me thinking, because this is just becomes a way of life, right? So Rajesh and Jaimit, it also gets me thinking of, as to what is it? Like I said, I wasn't, you ask me whatever you feel like. It doesn't matter, because I said, I have no great strategy to share. I have no great. I think it's just a lot of hard work, and you just stay with a razor fine focus, and keep trying to do a better job, and be honest with everybody around, and you'll be fine. I think like I said, there's so much opportunity in India that I think to whoever's listening to your show, I think go out there and try it. I think it's there's a lot of opportunity. You get a lot of satisfaction.
Absolutely, and you just got to get 1% better.
You've got to just have the passion
at what you do. At what you do.
You do a good job of what you're doing. You do a bad job, and that's not going to get you.
Thanks a lot, and it's been absolutely beautiful talking to you, Sudhir. A lot of wise lessons and a lot of the age and experience talking, and that beautiful way in which you said hotels are beautiful, customers are beautiful. And I think there's a lot that we can learn from. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, listeners. And one of the things that I always want to ask, we get a lot of comments on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and various different places. But I want you guys who listen to these conversations, put that on the comment section in YouTube. Keep talking to us. We'll keep improving. Keep those ideas coming. Disagree with us. Find fault with us. Hopefully have a fight with our host on the comment section, and we'll probably see if we can try and get him to answer back. Subscribe, share.
If you find a fault in what we do, you're just a free consultant who's making us 2% better.
Absolutely.
Because you're finding faults in what you're doing and you're making us better. So I think that's fantastic. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for inviting me. I feel privileged and honored, and you're both very established folks, and I hope that you found this useful. Unfortunately, I had nothing great strategic to say. We are tactical folks.
On that beautiful note, thanks a lot, and subscribe and listen to some of the other podcasts that we have. Share it with your friends. Be smart. Spread the smartness. Thank you.